Hello everyone, welcome back. We're going to cook bread today. So first I have my large bowl and we're going to start with 3 cups of all-purpose flour. Next we are going to make sure that we have our tablespoon ready, and we are going to add 3 tablespoons of sugar. Our next step is to add the salt. So I have my 1 teaspoon and I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of Himalayan salt. I also have my half teaspoon and I'm going to add exactly 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So in all, it's going to be 2.5 teaspoons of salt. We're just going to make sure that we mix all of those dry ingredients in really well so that there won't be clumps of sugar or clumps of salt with when you bite into your bread. So just make sure you mix it in really good. Next, we're adding 1/3 of a cup of oil. I'm using sunflower oil, so you can use any oil that you would like. This is just the oil that I have on hand. I usually use vegetable oil. Our next step is to add 2 cups of warm water. We do not want to use hot water because it could kill the yeast cells. Just make sure that it's just warm to the touch. So after we've added our warm water, we're going to gather our yeast. Here I have a package of safe instant yeast. It's any package of yeast. Make sure that it's instant though. And you're going to add exactly 2 tablespoons of instant yeast to your mix. Make sure that you use a wooden spoon in order to mix the dough. It doesn't have to be a wooden spoon, but it's more helpful to me to use a wooden spoon. And I just want you to see the texture and how it looks, because some people just fast forward past this part, but I want you to see how it should look at this point once you begin to stir the dough. We've already added 3 cups of all-purpose flour at the beginning, and I'm going to add another cup of flour because the dough is still wet, but it needs to have at least 2 more cups, and we're going to add just a cup at a time, and we're going to mix everything together really well. It's going to kind of make your arm tired because it's going to get kind of tough to stir, but just again, trust the process and just wait it out. And again, I want to show you the process because people fast forward through this part. Make sure that as you are stirring that you're trying to gather the crumbs and the flour that is left at the bottom of the bowl. And we are going to, and it's still a little wet and I could just feel it, so I'm going to add another cup of flour, and this is the last cup that we need. So in all, we are using 5 cups of flour for this bread recipe. So here I had to bring in reinforcements. I had to go get a spoon to help me to scrub off the dough from my wooden spoon. At this point, it looks like some chitterlings in my bowl, but trust, it is still just the dough and all the ingredients that we've added. I hadn't added anything off camera, and I'm still stirring. So we're just going to continue to stir to make sure that everything is mixed in well. All the flour is mixed in well throughout the dough. And then towards the end, what we're going to do is we're going to use that spoon, that metal spoon that I just used previously, and the wooden spoon to begin to form it into a ball. So as you see, we're forming it into a ball. Pretty much there are no crumbs left at the bottom of the bowl. And I am now about to get a towel because we're going to cover it so that we can give it time to rise. So after you've covered your dough, you're going to let it rise for 50 minutes. So please set your timer to 50 minutes. And so now we are going to reveal our dough. And as you see, it should have risen by now. Please, please, please make sure that your space is sterile, that it is as clean as can be. At this point, I do not let my family or anybody come near the counter space because this is where I'm going to place my bread, and I've already cleaned it. I don't need anybody coming and doing anything over it. So I have a 1/4 cup, and I am getting some flour. I'm sprinkling a little on the counter space so that the dough can be placed on it and it won't stick to my counter. And plus, I'm going to use it to gather more flour to add to the surface later so that I won't have to continue to reach into the container. Make sure that you have a rolling pin so that when it's time for you to roll out the dough, and a knife. And so as you see, I poured the dough onto the surface, and I'm going to flip it because it's still a little sticky at the bottom, and I want it to have flour on it so that of course it won't stick to the surface as much. I have the knife because I'm going to cut my dough into 3 equal pieces to work with, and I'm not going to show me working with the other 2 pieces. I'm just going to show this part here, and I am going to turn it to where I feel like I can work with it. If I feel like it's more flour needed on the surface, I'm going to add more flour to it. I just don't want anything to stick, right? And so I'm just going to make sure that I roll it out. And as you roll it out, make sure that you flatten it as much as you're comfortable with without making it too thin, meaning you can't see your counter space through the dough. But just roll it out, because if it's thick, then when your bread rises, it's gonna be really thick, because you have to roll it up like a cinnamon roll later. And so you want to make sure that you flatten it out as much as possible. It's almost gonna look like a giant rectangle, like a giant tile almost. And just like me, I'm having mistakes going on right here, but it's okay. Just flatten it back out, roll it back out. It's gonna be okay. So I have just finished rolling it out as thin as I'm comfortable with. I'm just going to roll the edges all the way down to the end of the dough. So I am going to use these as mini sub sandwiches, and so I'm cutting it about hand's length for each section. And then of course want to look fancy, so I put the little slits on the top of the bread as well. So after we have cut everything and placed it on our pan, you need to make sure that you preheat your oven to 375 degrees, and you have to let it rise again for another 50 minutes. So here I'm just measuring, showing you how it has doubled in size, and we're placing it in the oven, and you're going to let it cook for about 18 minutes until it's golden brown. And so here is our fresh bread straight out the oven. I use my fresh bread to make a tuna sub with lettuce and tomato. If you all like this video, please make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, and share. And I will see you next time with a new recipe.